Level 12. Frost Nova is now ruined with Shatter, and Arcane Torrent is now available for use. Alright, so this is going to cause me to get rid of my diamond skin. I'm going to go back to Frost Nova. With a Shatter, you get a frozen enemy that is killed has a 50% chance of releasing another Frost Nova. This is rather powerful. If you can get a Frost Nova off in a decent sized group, if you've got 2 or 3 monsters in that group, your chances are exceptionally high that at least one of them is going to go off and cause another Nova. Possibly even all 3. So with a group of smaller enemies, you want to go ahead and use that to kind of get an initial group frozen and then move away possibly, or even stay in the middle, depends on what situation you're running across, and then destroy them, and then the rest of the group will get frozen. It's very useful for choke points and things like that. So we'll put that on. My new secondary is Arcane Torrent. Costs 20 arcane power. Hurl a barrage of arcane projectiles that deal 175% weapon damage as arcane to all enemies near the impact location. Now, I'm interested in trying this skill. I've never used it before. I have seen it used, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect, though. With 175 weapon damage and a cost of 20 arcane power, we are looking at about 8.75 damage per arcane power, but it is also an AoE, much like Arcane Orb. So like Arcane Orb, I kind of gave you the idea of what to expect damage per arcane power cost, but keep in mind, of course, Arcane Orb has a nice large explosion. It does a lot of damage to groups. The description here makes me think that Arcane Torrent will also be more of an AoE ability. A lot of these are. Disintegrate is, I consider Disintegrate an AoE because it fires in a line and it will hit everything in that line. It does a general area of effect, even though it's not in an explosion type. Arcane Orb, obviously an explosion. Arcane Torrent, in this case, it's a barrage of projectiles with an explosion for AoE. Don't know how large it'll be, so I'll have to try it out. But the only single target one here is Ray of Frost, and even that's got runes to make it an AoE. So it's going to be interesting to take a look at this. Might want to reconsider the way my build is, because to be honest with you, Spectral Blade with Arcane Orb didn't really work out as the greatest combination, considering one's AoE ranged ability and other's kind of an AoE short range ability. It kind of worked, but I think I would have been better off with missiles when using something like Arcane Orb, Magic Missile, simply because I ran out of arcane power quickly with the orb. So let's take a look at this skill here. Okay, that's very much a channeled ability. So that's almost like Ray of Frost, in that it will do that over. So let's take a look. Ray of Frost is 20. This is 20. So they both have the same cost. This one's 175 compared to that's 215. So there's the interesting thing, is that both of these, Arcane Orb and Arcane Torrent, do 175% weapon damage. Both of them also do damage as Arcane. So they fill very similar roles. But the difference here seems to be Arcane Torrent. The way this looks to me is Arcane Torrent is going to be somewhere in between Orb and Frost. It's going to have, taking a look at that, so you can see there's kind of a minor explosion there. It's not a big one, but that means that enemies in the impact location will all take it. So there's a chance it'll do group damage, which makes it a little better than Ray of Frost, since Ray of Frost can only hurt one target at a time. But it also doesn't have as big of an explosion. That's 10 yards. This is probably maybe, I couldn't really tell you in the game's terms of yardage. This is probably maybe 2 or 3 at most. So that's interesting. And now I've got Shatter too. So oh, that's pretty nice. It looks like just by clicking, I get about 3 to go off. I find it weird though that the ones in there's a couple in the air that don't quite land. It looks kind of strange that they just kind of disappear. Well, that's really nice for just taking out a group. Alright, so the question is, do I want to use Spectral as my primary for this build? Because I've got Shatter. It's either Spectral Blade or Shock Pulse with Explosive Bolts, I think. Just to be able to try and take it to a group. Alright, we're going to leave it as is for now. And let's see if I can get to Jar of Souls or something like that. So you can see that's very nice that what's beautiful about it is I can move where I'm casting it. You know, as I channel it, I can just kind of move the pointer to the right location. The enemies are moving, they're trying to get out of the way. Arcane Orb, you know, if I missed, it would just go right past. In this instance, I can kind of direct it, do kind of maybe a carpet bombing run. What's interesting is you'll notice where I click here, where the spell starts, isn't necessarily going to be where they land. The projectiles that are in the air follow the mouse. So as I started here, by the time they hit the ground and I was here is where they landed. So it looks like they will adjust their course mid-flight. That makes this a very kind of useful, well-rounded... I'd say it's a pretty well-rounded spell. The downside to it is, of course, you have to be stationary for the duration of the cast. So Arcane Orb has more mobility, as well as having more AoE damage. But it makes up for the lack of AoE damage of Ray of Frost. So again, just kind of a mix between the two. There you go. Wow, this is pretty cool. I like it. Well, here comes the test. Not as many of those shattered as I was hoping.
I don't have enough arcane
power. That was pretty good. I like that. The Arcane Torrent feels good to me. Again, middle of the road. Has a lot of its own strengths and weaknesses to be considered a unique spell compared to the two. It is more than just a middle ground between Frost and Orb, because there are many different situations where it can be more useful than either one of them. So I like that feeling of the spell. Just something about being able to lay down a group of explosions in an area over time with a channeled spell. Really like the feel of that. Really nice. Now, the failing of this build really is here with expecting Nova to work with the way I have this build set up. Shatter is exceptional when you can freeze things and then kill them quickly. So with Shatter, I probably really want something that's going to hit hard. So maybe Orb with Obliterate, or maybe Ray of Frost. So that way I can freeze it and get in there and just keep getting more enemies frozen as it goes outwards. So there are better spells than Arcane Torrent to work with Shatter. So it looks interesting in the way they give you these skills. It looks like when they give you a skill when you level and they start giving you more than one skill, they're giving you skills that may not necessarily work well together. Some might. I mean, this could actually work. I might have to consider what I change my other skills to. As you saw even in this, Torrent, I was able to freeze everything and then use Torrent to get a few shatters out there. I didn't get as many as I wanted, though. A nice AoE ability would have probably done better. Maybe even using Wave of Force would have been really good there. Now what I want to test here is, as we know, Diamond Skin can be used while casting, so I'm going to do this. And, okay. That is not able to work that way. So that is a shame. As a matter of fact, since we're here, let's test it with Diamond Skin, because Diamond Skin may actually interrupt casting. It could just be that Sleet Storm goes back up so quickly I didn't notice it. So we're going to try that. We're going to go into Diamond Skin. Here we go. Start casting. No, it actually does not break your concentration at all. So, with abilities that channel, I would recommend Diamond Skin. If you want mobility, I recommend Nova, Frost Nova. And that allows you to kind of hit the spell down and move. Other spells that are great for mobility is Arcane Orb. Honestly, Ray of Frost and Arcane Torrent are horrible if you want to move. They have the ability to kind of stick and move, as it were. Ray of Frost probably better than the others, simply because Ray of Frost has that 3-second slow snare. So you can move, Ray of Frost, slow the enemy, move again, and keep doing it. But channeled spells obviously are not very good for that kind of stick and move gameplay. You would want something like Arcane Orb. Magic Missile would be really good for that as well. Shock Pulse is more for the short range. So as you can see, there's a few different builds and ways you can go about doing this, even with what I've got here. So I'm going to keep going. I might change this up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to play around with this Torrent a little more. I just really like that spell. That's kind of cool. Alright, well, welcome back. For me, this is actually a whole day later. For you, it's just another part of the video. Well, I've had time to get well rested, and I'm ready to delve into the skills that I got at level 13. Unfortunately, as you could probably guess, because I didn't comment on it when I got the level, I wasn't expecting it when I killed Leoric that time, so I want to at least, kind of pull it up so you can see the splash. I don't know why I bother, but hey, it's a quirk. So what did I get at level 13? Alright, well, I got 3 things. I got a passive, I got a rune, and I got a skill. I've already got them slotted. First, I'll just go over the passive real quick. Evocation reduces all cooldowns by 15%. I find the interesting thing about this is that the wizard only really has one massive cooldown ability, and that's Arcane. I'm pretty sure that's Arcane. I'll just go in here and we'll check it. Yep, Arcane, 120 seconds. Everything else is usually between 12 to 15 seconds. So that this will heavily benefit anyone with an Arcane build, but it will still help you with the others, because it actually can help you in a pinch. So to kind of give you an example here, we're taking off 15%. You think about Diamond Skin, which is a 15-second cooldown. If you multiply that by the 15% it takes off, you're losing 2 seconds off of it. So it's really only a 12.75, about let's say 13-second cooldown. So you're losing 2 seconds off of Diamond Skin. That can honestly make a big difference at times. When I was fighting Leoric, there were a few times where he hit me just a little bit before it came off cooldown. Now, unfortunately, with this passive on, you might notice that my cooldown still says 15 seconds. The cooldown does not change. The number there does not change because of the passive. Unfortunately, that's something you have to kind of know. I kind of hope that they make it so it does change when I have that slotted, but it could be the same reason why zombie dogs do not go away when you remove the passive. They probably don't have something to check that. Now, the rune I got was for Magic Missile. It is Split. Fires 3 missiles that each deal 50% weapon damage as Arcane. This, you would think, is about a 40% weapon damage buff to it, because 3 missiles at 50% means it does 150. When you read it, it looks like it plays like Splinters, like from the Witch Doctor, where you fire 3 shots. Not quite. As you can see, it splits them along a horizontal plane there, so it basically makes it a kind of a cone. And it's kind of a random cone, too. You can see sometimes it's a tight spread, sometimes it's a wide spread. This makes Magic Missile really great for handling multiple enemies. And as such, because it's kind of an AoE, its damage has been reduced across each bullet. Still a decent ability. I have managed, while testing it out here, to take out skeletons in groups that were coming at me. I would aim for one, and the ones next to him would die. And what's really great, too, is if you're in a closer proximity, or if the monster is big enough, all 3 of these can hit that monster, and you will obtain that maximum theoretical DPS. You honestly cannot take this at its word that it's going to do 150 because of that spread. It's not always going to do it. But if there's a big group, you might want that, especially if it's a group of things that die quickly. Lastly, I have Energy Twister. 35 arcane power. Unleash a twister of pure energy that deals 360% weapon damage as arcane over 6 seconds. So keep in mind, the way Energy Twister works, you are not going to see that 360% weapon damage on any target. You simply won't unless you get very lucky or the monster moves simply that slow and moves in the path of it. So what you're expecting here from Energy Twister, we're going to say 360 over your 6 seconds. So you're basically getting 60% weapon damage per second. So that's not bad. 60 per second is actually a pretty good chunk of damage there. And I'll go ahead and show it off to you. It's slightly erratic. What I like about it is, if you look here, it actually has a vortex effects where it'll pick up, notice how it's moving the debris here. It can actually carry physics objects along with it. I think that's a very nice little touch that they added to it. So I'm going to go here. Now the thing about the twister is it typically will try to travel forward. So you can count on it to try and go in the direction you point it at. But as you can see here, in a wide open area, it kind of moves a little bit erratic. It seems to gravitate towards objects, which can be nice for using it to hit monsters. Typically, if it hits a wall, it will rebound off that wall. So there are certain rules that apply to it. If you put it in the right locations, it can work very well for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and play around with these a little bit so you can kind of get a feel for them. You get a couple twisters up on this, and as you can see, it does quite a bit of damage right there. I'll go ahead and put on my skin to get Evocation going. Firing off, as you can see, this is really good against these groups. And my diamond skin is almost back already. And there it is, so I can just use it again. So that Evocation is actually pretty nice. Let me go ahead and get up to 3 tornadoes going before I run out of power. As you can see, these hit the wall. They started moving along the wall rather than bouncing off of it. And they last for a good while. I honestly think the tornadoes are more suited to groups and hallways. Because if you fire it down a hallway, it should go down that hallway. If you've got a very narrow hallway, and I'll kind of show it off over here in one of these side areas to kind of prove my point on that. Let's kill this guy. See, I want to hit this guy, and I can just summon my tornadoes, and there you go. See how they all pretty much go. That one hit awkwardly and went the other way, but hey, it hit a monster, which is good. But there you go. 60 per second. It's just constantly hitting these skeletons that I fire it at. There you go. 2 of them just made short work. To get 2 of them, they get in that vortex, you know, that's 120 weapon damage per second. It's a great ability to put out there to supplement your damage. You can basically put a tornado down, move around, fire while the tornado's going, and kind of forget about it. So it's one of those unconventional spells. You can't exactly... This is what I like about the wizard's abilities. The wizard feels like the wizard has a lot of abilities that you can use in so many different situations. You can use them in unorthodox situations as well, such as just, you know, kind of putting these down, moving around, firing while they're out there. The wizard feels very well-rounded in this way.
You will never defeat me.
And there are builds you can make to make the wizard very strong in single-target damage as well, to kind of be the glass cannon. And I bring that up simply because I have seen some arguments about the wizard not being the glass cannon on Diablo fans. You know, and that seems to be partially true. Every class has the potential to be a supposed glass cannon. Witch Doctor, Demon Hunter. I wouldn't say so much the Barbarian and the Monk because they're melee. They're not meant to be glass cannons because you would get wrecked in melee if you were. But I think that's a good thing because if your class depends solely on doing a lot of damage to survive, monsters in Inferno mode are going to be so tough that I don't think you're going to be able to kill them quite that quickly to be able to avoid taking damage. I mean, the whole idea of a glass cannon is if you get hit, it's going to really, really hurt. So they kind of took that and decided to give you abilities that will supplement your survival. But you also have abilities that can do a lot of damage, especially if you target it right. So I'm just going to take out Leoric with these abilities so you can kind of see it. Alright, he's got a group here, so I can use that.
I need arcane power.
And then this missile's great because he's summoning his skeletons, and I'm hitting him, but I'm also hitting his skeletons at the same time. And Leoric is just a big enough target that I'm hitting him with typically all 3 of these. Yeah, my diamond skin is coming up much quicker than I even actually need it here, but that's kind of nice because there were times where he would do his teleport a little early, and if he were to do that now, I could compensate for it with my faster cooldown. See, like right there, he did it way early, and I still had diamond skin on. Of course, that was more of an issue of me hitting diamond skin at a time where I could actually benefit from it. But there you go, the wizard feeling really good. Lots of damage that can be put out in both single target and AoE. Obviously not, I don't have all the abilities that can supplement my single target damage, but just with Ray of Frost alone does a decent amount of damage. The wizard is basically built to lose resource very quickly, but you gain that resource back fairly quickly as well. And keep in mind, while I don't have anything to regain arcane power with my signature spells right now, there are passives and runes, I do believe, that will allow you to gain arcane power with every cast, meaning the wizard has minimal downtime. The Witch Doctor, when you get maximum level Witch Doctor, you're going to have a lot of mana, but you're not going to have a lot of regen unless you get it on gear. So therefore, the Witch Doctor will be expected to basically put a lot of things out, have some downtime until they can get that mana back, whereas the wizard, we may not be able to put everything out as quickly as the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor can throw spells out there, you know, right away, do a ton of front-loaded damage. Whereas the Wizard does a quick burst, recharge, quick burst, recharge. The Witch Doctor has that playstyle where they can weave their spells that allow them to recharge a bit, but they're also able to do a nice long burst of damage. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages, and honestly each one feels pretty good, especially since the wizard spells feel more controlled. The witch doctor spells, some of them are a little crazy, but they work, and they work wonders. Dire Bats being an amazing single target spell. This feels, I'd say the wizard feels slightly more controlled. You have more effect over everything that you have. I mean, certain spells obviously are not perfectly controlled, like Twister. It's kind of hard to really put, I think, and how those playstyles really feel to me. They feel different enough, but similar, and that I think they both have a very different play experience, especially since the Witch Doctor is going to have things like pets. The Wizard's feeling really good, and again, I'm kind of really thinking hard about what class I want. Again, the Wizard has the most skills in the game, which means because the Wizard has about 3 more skills than the other classes, roughly, that means the Wizard has 15 more runes. So that's a lot. I really am looking forward, to trying Arcane. That, if anything, that might be what makes me want to try a Wizard. That just looks hot. I'm just going to say it. Looks hot. Feeling really great about the Wizard, and I'm really sorry that it took so long to get this out there, guys. But plans from now. I'm going to say I think I'll do a Monk, since people have been asking, and some people have been asking for the Barbarian too, so I think I'll start with the Monk again. Honestly, nothing has really changed for the Monk and the Barbarian from the last patch, but I'll go ahead and I'll do them again. Just to kind of get it out there, because a lot of people are interested in it and they want to see it. At this point, though, as you can see, it's kind of getting to the point where I'm getting through all the classes. That's going to be everything. I've got some ideas in my head what I want to do next. Try and see what, throw it against the wall, see what sticks. But I'm really interested in kind of what you guys think, especially when the full game comes out. I want you guys to think about that. I have some thoughts of what I'm going to do there. But I know that this playstyle here is probably not going to really work because the full game will be out and you're all going to be playing it. So I'd like feedback on maybe what you guys would like to see if the full game came out. Maybe questions you would have or certain things you would like to see done. And I'd like to take that into consideration. I have opened a mailbox called TheShadowPost at gmail.com. I'll provide a link. It's, again, TheShadowPost at gmail.com. And I'd really like to see what you guys think, what suggestions you have, what you'd like to see when Diablo 3 comes out. Or heck, if you guys have things that you would like to see outside of Diablo 3, if there's anything I might be able to accommodate there. Honestly, I'm open to suggestions. This channel was never really meant to be too long beyond this beta at first, but now that I've seen that you guys are interested in what I had to put out there, I would kind of hate to just see it go away. So I'm really interested to see what you, my audience, would really think. So please feel free, drop me a line, let me know. And again, like I said, I have some things that I'm thinking of. I might put out an experimental video just to see how it goes. We'll go from there. Alright, this video has been a longer one, I know, because I had several levels to go through. So again, please thumb up if you like the content. Leave questions, comments, and concerns at theshadowpost@gmail.com or in the comments section below.